you must watch this video in its full length before you even think about visiting Cuba.
We really love Cuba, but it was also one of our most challenging countries, and so we thought we could share some tips with you that could help you to organize your trip in Cuba and to enjoy it as much as possible.
Cuba is a bit of a complicated country because it's cut off from the rest of the world. Everything is just a little bit harder.
And you know what happened these past years, and Cuba suffered a lot from that, and you can clearly see a before and after.
Here are tips and tricks on how to visit Cuba.
Before you leave, you have to think about these things.
Number one, money is complicated. There is a whole system of money in Cuba and it changed recently, so everything you will read online doesn't make sense anymore. I won't bother you with before, but currently you have the CUP, which means the Cuban pesos, which you can use to buy things on the street, and you have a digital currency, which is only really available to locals. And then you as a tourist, you should bring cash. Bring literally all the euros you need in your entire trip. Bring it as cash with you. I know it sounds a weird thing to do, but you should do it, because then what you can do is you can either just pay in euros or you can exchange euros for the CUP, the Cuban pesos. Now, the official rate for 1 euro to pesos is like 1 to 24, but on the street they use a difference. So when you go to a restaurant, often you'll pay between like 1 euro equals 80 to like 110 pesos. And so you can either exchange officially at the bank, or you can do, ask a guy. The official exchange rate will, however, make your trip extremely expensive, so just be aware of that.
Tips number 2 before you leave: think about bringing all the food, medicine or hygienic product that you really need, because in Cuba as a tourist it's quite hard to do any groceries, to find any hygienic products or medicine. It will either be very expensive, or you have to queue for a very long time, or you just might not find it at all because of all the shortage. In terms of food, when you're in the country, don't worry, you'll be able to eat at the restaurant, at your casa particular where you will sleep, or at your hotel, but don't expect to buy any fresh products because you cannot really find it in the store. Your food balance might be a bit challenging there.
Tip number 3. Let's quickly talk about the Cuban tourist card. It is not a visa, but you need this little card to get into the country. Now, there are 2 ways to get this card. One, you can just simply do a request online, and there are lots of companies that for like maybe 30, 40, 50 euros will organize it all for you. They will get the card for you. It's very simple to get. They will just send it to your post address. Or 2, in some airports, you can just get it at the airport. That's what we did. We got our card the morning before we flew off to Cuba. We got it at the airport in Cancun. Now just be aware, it's just a couple airports. I think it's in Mexico and maybe in if there's like a direct flight. Your safest option though is to just get it online, get a company to send it to you. It will take about 5 days, so just be aware that you have to do that on time.
Tips number 4, when it comes to booking, we recommend you to stay in a casa particular, which is the people's home, and you can find these on Airbnb or other casa particular specific website, but just be aware, most of these websites don't work in Cuba. So you have to anticipate them, you have to book them in advance, or you can play the risky game if you feel very adventurous. You can just not book anything and go in the street and find the casa particular because you will recognize them in the streets, and just knock to the door and say like, hey, can I sleep here tonight? But you don't know the end result, you don't know if they will have place for you. Just go on Airbnb, book in advance your casa particular for more peace of mind.
So as you can hear, it's all about planning and anticipation. You have to think carefully about your trip before you go there. Whilst you're there are a couple tips we have to give you too when you are on the ground in Cuba.
While you're in Cuba, there is many different ways to get to a point A to a point B. You can use the bus, you can use the taxi, you can use taxi colectivo, you can use your own car if you want to book one, but we don't really recommend that one because it's going to be very expensive and the roads are not per se in a very good state. Taxi are quite expensive. We advise you to negotiate the price with them. You have the taxi colectivo. While we were there in Cuba, we did struggle to find taxi colectivo. It's usually the cheapest option. They just pack the car with a bunch of tourists and then just divide the price, so then it just make it cheaper. But maybe because it was just after the crisis, not that many tourists came, so they really struggled to fill up the car. But what we personally used the most was the Via Azul bus. You can go to many different places with Via Azul. The price is affordable. It's not the cheapest, as cheap as Taxi Colectivo, but it's not as expensive as a taxi. The buses are quite comfortable. We advise you to book your tickets online because the bus can fill up very quickly, but you can otherwise also buy your ticket at the office. Oh, and bonus tip. Bring a jersey because they are blasting the aircon so hard in the bus and you might be very cold, even though in Cuba it's very hot.
Tip number 2, just be aware that on Mondays everything is closed. So don't plan to do any museums or most activities on Mondays because they close on Mondays. And at the same time, tip number 3, if you are in Cuba and you wanted to do the little cigar experience, don't buy cigars on the street, they will sell you fake stuff. Go to the official stores, or even better, go to the farms in Vinales and see how the farmers roll the cigars right in front of your eyes.
Tip number 4. In Cuba there is many activities that you can do. And your Casa Particular can help you to organize all of that and even book taxi for you. But just be aware, they usually get a commission, so it's a bit more pricey to book with them, but it's very helpful. On the other hand, you can anticipate your booking and just book your activities online before going to Cuba, or go in the streets and you will see many people that will sell their activities and their tour, but then it's cheaper, but then you don't know what to expect in terms of quality.
Tip number 5, the internet. In our everyday life, we know that internet is readily available, not so in Cuba. In Cuba, internet is very sporadic and you will not have a lot of access to it. Even at your Casa Particular and hotels, you will not be able to be on the internet all the time because it costs them a lot of money to be on the internet. What you can do, however, is you can go to the local telecom company called Etexa, and there you can buy these little cards that have got a number on it, and then you can find a hotspot, which are in all the little towns. Usually in this town square there's a hotspot, and then you can log on to the internet there on the hotspot, and then you can browse there for like an hour or whatever you want. It's very cheap to just buy those cards, so we recommend you to buy a couple cards and then just be on the internet on the hotspots, and then out of the hotspots just disconnect, read a book and enjoy the disconnected Cuban life.
Tip number 6. You cannot drink tap water, so the other option is bottled water. But be aware, sugar drinks are easier to find than bottle of water. So as soon as you see a bottle of water in a shop, just get it and get couple once, because you never know when will be the next shop where you will find bottled water.
Tip number 7. People are very friendly and will talk to you all the time. So just be aware, if you need help, people will help you straight away, no stress. But if you know what you're doing and you don't really want to help, you are more than welcome to say, please, I already know what I'm doing. I don't have to talk to you right now. Because people will follow you and talk to you a lot, and it can sometimes be a bit overwhelming. But no, it's out of good heart. They love to talk to you and you should definitely talk back, but just know your limit.
So that was our tips based on our own experience. Comment below if you have any other tips that you would like to share for people who want to discover the beautiful country of Cuba.
We hope this was very helpful for you. And now you are ready to venture off to this amazing, crazy, wonderful country called Cuba. Tag us in your pictures and let us know how your experience was.